My fiancée ghosted me a week before the wedding. No calls, no explanation. So I sold the ring and canceled everything. Then she showed up crying at my job. I'm 32 male, Matthew. Or, I was 32 and about to be a husband. Now, I'm just 32 with a stack of cancellation receipts. It started 8 days ago, a week before the wedding. Lisa, 29, was supposed to meet me. We had a final venue meeting the next morning. Last-minute stuff, table placements, meal counts. She never showed. 7 p.m. texted. No reply. 8 p.m. called. Voicemail. Odd. Her phone was usually surgically attached to her hand. 9 p.m. that gut knot started. Called again. Voicemail. I called her sister Ashley. Hadn't heard from her. Called her parents. Same. Panic. By midnight I was frantic. Called friends. Drove past her apartment. Dark, car gone. This wasn't Lisa. She was a planner, an over-communicator. To just vanish? Unthinkable. The next 24 hours were a blur. Hospitals, a missing persons report. Surreal. Her family was a wreck. I was torn between terror, something awful had happened, and a creeping dread of a more personal betrayal. Day 3, police found her, safe. Staying with an old college friend, Sandra, 3 hours away. Relief hit me, then immediately a cold, sharp feeling of, what on earth? She was fine, and told no one, not me. The police said she wouldn't speak to me, no reason for her departure, just that she was safe and needed space. Needed space, a week before our wedding. My brain just froze. Fear and grief morphed into something icy. No note, no text, no email. After 5 years, after planning a life, after picking out those darn floral centerpieces. Silence. So I started making calls. Venue, lost the $5,000 deposit. Caterer, another $3,500 gone. Photographer, sympathetic, but bye-bye $2,000. Florist, my initial deposit for them. DJ, cake, honeymoon flights, non-refundable resort. Each call, a hammer tap. Chipping away at our future. The financial hit from these deposits I had personally paid or was immediately liable for was significant, around $15. Her parents had paid for her dress separately and were supposed to cover the bulk of the flower costs directly with the florist later, but the initial booking deposit for the flowers had come out of my account. The hardest calls were to family and friends. Weddings off. The shock, the unanswerable questions, humiliating. My mom cried. My dad just kept asking, son, what on earth? I wish I knew. Then the ring. 1.5 carat cushion cut, vintage inspired. Her dream. Cost me over $13,000. I took it to a reputable jeweler. Got $7,800. Less than hoped, more than feared. That money went straight into my account, a partial offset against the $15,000 in direct losses I'd already incurred from non-refundable deposits and commitments. It barely scratched the surface of the financial damage, but it was something. I packed every single thing of hers in my apartment. Photos, clothes, that silly carnival teddy bear. Boxed, labeled, ready for her eventual reappearance. It's been 5 days since I found out she was fine. Still no word. Ghosted her own wedding. Ghosted me. The anger is a cold lump, but mostly I feel clear. How do you come back from this? You don't. I'm waiting for the other shoe. People don't do this without a follow-up act. Update. Well, the other shoe didn't just drop, it practically kicked me. Last Tuesday, I'm a project manager for a construction company. Mid-meeting with a client, my colleague Nancy pokes her head in. Matthew, sorry visitor, says it's urgent. Excused myself, annoyed, walked to reception. There she was, Lisa, looking like she'd cried for a week, puffy eyes, messy hair, a world away from the woman I was supposed to marry. First thought, seriously, here? My workplace? Matthew, she said, voice thick, tried to step forward for a hug. I stepped back. Lisa, what are you doing here? Low voice, Nancy at the desk, suddenly very busy. We need to talk, she whispered, tears welling. Please, it's all been a horrible mistake. A mistake? I said flatly. Ghosting me, your family, a week before our wedding, refusing contact, that's a mistake? I know. I freaked out, scared. Sandra said some things, I just panicked. Sandra, her free spirit friend who always thought Lisa was too good for me, right? So you ran off, no word, for 3 weeks. Didn't know how to face you, ashamed. Matthew, I still love you, I want to fix this. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. Fix this? Disbelief. Lisa, there's nothing to fix, it's done. I canceled everything, weddings off, permanently. Her face crumpled. No, you can't mean that. We can rebook. Tell everyone I had a family emergency. A health scare. Smooth it over. The sheer entitlement was stunning. Smooth it over? Like a spilled drink, not a life detonation? Lisa, I sold the ring. That stopped her. Jaw dropped. You, what? Sold it. As I said, I lost over for $15,000 in non-refundable deposits I'd personally paid. The $7,800 from the ring barely made a dent, but it was necessary. You sold my ring? Voice rising. That was my ring. My grandmother's setting was the inspiration. How could you? Okay, now anger. Your ring? I bought it for a wedding you abandoned, a symbol of a commitment you spat on. Inspiration doesn't make it an heirloom when I paid. But the money, she sputtered. What about it? I asked, calm. It partially covered the venue, caterer, honeymoon, consequences of your actions, which still left me massively out of pocket. She stared. You have to give it to me. That money is partly mine. We were getting married. Were. Past tense. No, I don't have to do anything except protect myself from further damage. My boss, Mr. Donaldson, stern but fair, walked out, drawn by her voice. Glanced at Lisa, then me, eyebrow raised. Everything all right, Matthew? Personal matter, Mr. Donaldson. Being resolved, I said, giving Lisa a get-out look. Lisa appealed to him. He sold my engagement ring, canceled our wedding without talking to me, she wailed. Mr. Donaldson looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, this is a business, I cut in. Lisa, this is inappropriate. Leave, now. But Matthew, our families, the deposits my parents paid. Your parents paid for your dress, which I assume you still have. They were supposed to pay the florist the remaining balance directly, but they hadn't. When I canceled the florist contract, I got stuck with their $1,400 cancellation fee because I made the initial booking. That fee added to my already huge losses the ring money only fractionally covered. I have receipts for everything. You can discuss those charges with your parents. She looked slapped, ugly, crying now. You're so cruel, cold. I made a mistake. Don't I deserve compassion? Compassion? Ice in my voice. Use that up, wondering if you were dead in a ditch. Want compassion? Start with an actual apology, an explanation that isn't blaming your friend. And don't accost me at my job, demanding money from a ring you forfeited when you fled, especially when I'm still dealing with the financial fallout you caused, including bills your parents should have paid. I dislike you intensely, she screamed. Colleagues staring, cheeks burned but resolve hardened. Feelings becoming mutual. Security can show you out. She glared venomously, spun, and stormed out, nearly tripping over a plant. Mr. Donaldson. Well, that was a lot. You okay, son? Peachy. But I was shaking. Not fear. Audacity. She didn't just want forgiveness. She wanted an eraser, expecting me to foot the bill. Later, her mother, Margaret, called. Oh, joy. Update, Margaret. Lisa's mom. Always concerned with appearances, polite but judgmental. Her call a few hours after Lisa's office flameout. Matthew, dear, she began, faux sweetness dripping. Lisa is beside herself, distraught. I can imagine, I said dryly. Screaming in someone's workplace is tiring. Sharp intake of breath. No need for sarcasm. The poor girl made a mistake. A big one, yes. Her father and I are deeply disappointed. But she's realized her error, wants to make amends. Her amends involved demanding I reinstate a canceled wedding and give her money from a ring I sold to partially cover her mess. A mess that still left me thousands in debt. That's delusion, Margaret. She was upset about the ring, naturally, Margaret said, glossing over it. Sentimental value, the design. The design she picked from a catalog. Sentiment was in the commitment she abandoned. Matthew, Margaret's voice firmed. This isn't just about feelings. There are considerable costs. We paid for her expensive dress, and we'd given you two a substantial monetary gift for your honeymoon. $5,000. Given the wedding is off, by your hand with the cancellations. I almost laughed. Hold on, Margaret. Wedding's off because Lisa vanished, causing me emotional distress and massive financial loss. I canceled because the bride was MIA. Your $5,000 gift went into our joint wedding fund spreadsheet. It clearly shows allocation to the non-refundable Maldives resort Lisa insisted on. I have bank statements and payment confirmations. Want them? Silence. Then improper for you to have kept that money. Improper? Quite annoyed now. What's improper is your daughter vanishing, leaving me with pieces and bills. That $5,000 covered 2/3 of the lost honeymoon. I absorbed the rest, plus all other deposits I'd made. The ring money only partly offset my initial losses. It didn't make me whole. Itemizing? What? She asked when I mentioned my next step. You and Christopher, her dad, or to pay the florist the outstanding balance of $2,800 directly, remember? You hadn't. When I had to cancel the entire florist contract because the wedding was off, the florist charged a 50% cancellation fee on that total, which amounted to $1,400. Since I made the initial booking and paid the small deposit, I was legally on the hook for that $1,400 cancellation fee when you didn't pay your share. I had to cover it, adding further to my significant personal losses from this whole fiasco. Outrageous. You're trying to extort us. No, Margaret. Calm, dangerous voice, stating facts. Lisa's actions led to these costs. The ring money only softened the blow of my own direct losses. Your $5,000 gift went to the honeymoon we never took. Now, on top of all that, I also had to cover the florist cancellation fee that arose entirely because you and Christopher didn't fulfill your commitment to the florist before Lisa disappeared. There is no profit for me. Only a massive headache and a broken engagement that's cost me a fortune. Sputtering. Lisa said you were cold. She was right. After all she's been through. All she's been through, Margaret? What about me? Our families, friends, the worry, canceled plans, embarrassment? She just got scared. Young girls do these things. She's 29, Margaret, not 19. Decent people don't do these things. They communicate, take responsibility. This went on. Astounding entitlement. She genuinely believed because Lisa was sorry, a sorry I hadn't heard meaningfully, all burdens should vanish or be mine. Even suggested I apologize to Lisa for selling her ring and not being understanding at my job. Enough. Margaret, listen. I'm done. I'm sending you, Christopher and Lisa, an itemized list of all wedding-related expenses that I managed or was left financially responsible for. This includes payments I made, deposits I lost, and liabilities I had to cover when others defaulted, like your florist bill. It will clearly show by whom these costs were originally contractually owed or who caused the loss. It will demonstrate that no one's profiting, least of all me, and will clearly state the $1,400 florist bill I covered on your behalf. Reimburse me for that $1,400 or not, your choice. But further demands or harassment will get a cease and desist from an attorney. Clear? Dead quiet. Then it clipped, you wouldn't dare. Try me. Hung up. Hands shaking. Not pleasant. But rage was a clean fire. They thought they could bully me into paying for Lisa's enormous mistake. Next day I did it. Meticulous spreadsheet. Every vendor for shared items, every deposit I paid, dates, scanned receipts, highlighted the florist cancellation fee I was forced to cover, attached ring sale proof and how that only partially offset my own initial list of losses, 3 copies, registered mail, return receipt. For Lisa, for her parents. Then, the fun. Lisa wasn't just staying with Sandra. After Lisa's office stunt, heard via grapevine from Nancy's venting, Sandra apparently told Lisa to own her stuff or leave. So Lisa was back with her parents. My spreadsheet landed mid-reunion. Text from Ashley, Lisa's sister, days later. Ashley, Matthew, Mom and Dad got your documents. And Lisa, WW3 here. Just wanted to say, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve it. Replied, thanks Ashley, appreciate that. The revenge wasn't vindictive, it was clarity. Consequences. They wanted to muddy waters, make me the bad guy. Spreadsheet was my factual weapon. Heard Lisa tried spinning a story to mutual friends about me getting cold feet, being controlling, she had to escape. After her job meltdown. Audacity. But my calm explanation, her public meltdown, it contrasted sharply. People talked, not kindly about her. Her victim narrative backfired, especially when her financial demands leaked, likely via Margaret. Fallout was simple. Her actions, her consequences. No drama, just paperwork and truth. Still no florist fee reimbursement. Don't expect it, but they know. And they know their demands are baseless because my documentation clearly shows I was left holding the bag for their portion too. Small victory. Update. It's been a while. Life annoyingly just keeps going. After I sent that registered mail of financial truth, the initial explosion, per Ashley, settled in silence. Blessed, golden silence. No more calls from Margaret, no tearful, manipulative ambushes from Lisa, no angry emails from Christopher, her dad, who I always figured was quietly baffled by his family anyway. I didn't get the full $1,400 for the florist cancellation, the part her parents should have paid. Knew I wouldn't. Prying money from a self-righteous Margaret? Easier to baptize a cat. The principle was asserted. The spreadsheet detailed my complete financial burden, including covering their lapse. What I did get was a gem from Ashley about a month ago. We'd kept sporadic, cautious contact. Ashley, you are not going to believe this, or maybe you will. Lisa tried to get mom and dad to pay for a healing retreat for trauma from the wedding cancellation, cost $3,000. I replied, and did they? Dad actually said no, flat out. Said her healing could start with getting a job and paying back the deposits they did lose on her dress alterations and a few other bits they'd prepaid for directly. Things that weren't even on your list of shared financial responsibilities you had to settle. Mom silent treatment for dad. Lisa hysterical. Circus. That right there was better than any $1,400. Entitlement hitting a family brick wall. Christopher finding his voice. Good on him. And Ashley's clarification confirmed my spreadsheet correctly, focused on my direct and consequential losses. Lisa, from what Ashley and others say, isn't thriving. Her victim plan crumbled. The workplace stunt made her look unhinged. Her bad-mouthing of me was clumsy, easily refuted. Many former mutuals saw her behavior. Some offered me support. Others faded, understandable. Friendship culls happen. She's apparently still with her parents. Job hunt not going well. Anything she's qualified for is beneath her after her trauma. The world isn't bending to her narrative. The artifact of this mess for me is that spreadsheet. Saved, not for money, but as a reminder. Strategy, not just emotion, works. Line in the sand, armed with facts about the financial burdens I was forced to carry. As for me, first month was rough. Not just anger, but sheer bafflement. The why. Probably never get a satisfying answer. People like that rarely make sense to anyone but themselves. But the clarity from my first post stuck, like a filter removed. See things, people, more clearly. Sold our couch, bought a new one just for me, reclaimed my space, gym more regularly, great stress relief, reconnected with neglected friends, works good. Mr. Donaldson actually gave a nod of respect after the incident. Handled that like a professional, Matthew. Small things matter. Dating? Definitely not. Not yet. Trust feels daunting, but not bitter. Trying not to be. Focusing on myself, career, friendships, healing, I guess, my way. No $3,000 retreat needed. Sometimes late at night, a flicker of old hurt, betrayal, the imagined future, but it passes quicker, replaced by quiet satisfaction. Not loud victory, but calm assurance. I handled an impossible situation with dignity, strength. Didn't let her destroy me, my finances, or reputation. She faced consequences, natural ones. No over-the-top revenge, just steady fallout from a terrible choice. That feels more real, more satisfying than any drama. She made her bed, now she's lying in it, with her parents complaining. I'm sleeping just fine. I came home, found my mother-in-law in my bedroom. She said, "This is my house now." I called a locksmith. Changed everything. My wife picked her side and regretted it. I'm 34 male, a logistics manager, which is a fancy way of saying I spend my life making sure things move from point A to point B in an orderly fashion. I like systems, I like predictability. It's why I bought my house 7 years ago, a full 3 years before I met my wife, Brenda, too. It was my anchor, my one non-negotiable piece of order in a chaotic world. My name is on the deed. My money paid the down payment. My name is on the mortgage. This is a critical detail. Brenda's mother, Shirley, 62, has always been the antithesis of order. She's a force of nature, but not a pleasant one. More like a hurricane you're forced to board up the windows for every few months. For the 4 years Brenda and I were married, I saw the pattern. Shirley manufactured crises. There was the time she accidentally double-booked a vacation and needed me to pay for a last-minute flight. The time she co-signed on a car for a friend who defaulted, and Brenda drained our savings to stop her from being sued. Each time I'd try to establish a boundary, and each time Brenda, her face etched with anxiety, would plead with me. "She'll fall apart if we don't help, Jonathan. It's just this once." It was never just once. 2 months ago, Shirley's landlord decided to sell her apartment. She had 60 days to move. Immediately, the campaign began. "I have nowhere to go," she'd weep to Brenda over the phone. "My own daughter is going to let me be homeless." I knew what was coming. A week later, Brenda sat me down. "We need to let her stay with us, just for a little while." I took a deep breath. This was it, the line in the sand. "No, Brenda," I said as gently but as firmly as I could. "We are not doing that. Your mother is a guest for an afternoon, not a roommate. It would destroy our marriage, and you know it." I then laid out a counteroffer. I would personally pay the deposit and first month's rent on a new apartment for her. I would even hire movers. It was a generous offer, a final offer. Brenda cried, but she eventually nodded. She said she understood. She said she would tell her mother. For the next few weeks, things were quiet. I thought the problem was solved. I was a fool. Last week, I had a mandatory 3-day work trip. I kissed Brenda goodbye on Tuesday morning. I finished my work ahead of schedule and, feeling a surge of relief, caught an earlier flight home on Thursday. I landed around noon, planning to surprise Brenda with lunch at her favorite spot. The moment I opened my front door, I knew. The air was thick with a foreign floral perfume she wore. A stack of battered U-Haul boxes, scrawled with "Shirley's Kitchen," stood sentinel in my hallway. My stomach turned to ice. I walked into the living room. Her gaudy, overstuffed armchair was crammed next to my sofa, and on my bookshelf, where I kept my collection of vintage sci-fi paperbacks, sat her army of porcelain dolls, their dead glass eyes judging me. My heart was a cold, heavy drum against my ribs as I went upstairs. The door to our bedroom, my bedroom, was wide open. Inside, 2 movers were struggling with a monstrously ornate headboard, and directing them, with the imperious wave of a hand, was Shirley. My bed, the one Brenda and I shared, was disassembled and propped against the far wall like an afterthought. She saw me and a slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. It was the smile of someone who had just checkmated an opponent who didn't even know they were playing a game. "Jonathan, you're home early," she said. Her tone was benign, but her eyes were glinting. "Shirley," I said, my voice dangerously low. "What is this? Where's Brenda?" "Picking up lunch for us," she said, turning back to the movers. "She won't be long. Now boys, let's get this centered. It needs to be the focal point of the room." The movers exchanged an uncomfortable glance. I stepped fully into the room. "Stop," I said to them. They froze. I turned to Shirley. "What are you doing in my bedroom?" She let out a theatrical sigh, the kind designed to paint me as an unhinged brute. "Jonathan, please don't make a scene. We can discuss this when Brenda is here." She agreed this was for the best. "The best? The best was the apartment I offered to rent for you. This is a home invasion." That's when she dropped the pretense. She stepped closer, her voice a low hiss. "Let me be clear. My daughter lives here, which makes this a family home. I am the matriarch. For her sake, I am taking my rightful place. This is my house now. You'll learn to live with it. This is my house now." The words hung in the air. The movers looked at their feet, at the ceiling, anywhere but at us. One of them cleared his throat. "Us, sir, ma'am. I think we're going to take a smoke break. Just let us know when you've got this sorted." They practically fled from the room. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I finally saw the full picture. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the endgame of Shirley's years-long campaign, and my wife had been her willing accomplice. I turned without another word, walked down the stairs and out my front door. I sat in my car, the engine off, and watched the movers leaning against their truck, smoking. I pulled out my phone. First call, a 24-hour locksmith. I scheduled a complete re-key of all exterior doors for 3 p.m. Second call, my brother, the paralegal. He listened, whistled low, and said, "Don't even breathe without talking to a divorce attorney. I'll send you a name." Third, a text to Brenda. "I'm home. Saw the new decorating. Your mother just informed me this is her house now." Her reply was instantaneous. "Jonathan, wait, don't do anything. I can't explain. Mom's just being dramatic. You know how she is. I'm almost home. We can talk this out." You know how she is. The 4-word excuse for a lifetime of chaos. I waited. When her car pulled up, she got out with takeout bags, a forced, placating smile on her face. It vanished when she saw me sitting in my car. She tapped on the glass. I rolled down the window. "What are you doing out here? Let's go inside. We can't talk on the street." "Is your mother moving her things out of my house?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Her face crumpled. What was I supposed to do? She cried for days. She said she'd rather die than live in some sterile apartment by herself. She promised it would just be for a few months, just until she gets back on her feet. She needs the master bedroom because of her bad back. It was a compromise, Jonathan. A compromise you made with my life and my property, without my consent. I'm going to a hotel. A locksmith is coming at 3 p.m. You and your mother have until then to vacate my house. You can take your things. Your mother can take hers. Leave my keys on the kitchen counter. Her expression hardened, the pleading replaced by her mother's fury. You're kicking me out? Your wife? Over a bedroom? I'm securing my property from a hostile takeover you co-signed, I said. You have until 3. I started the car and drove away. I didn't look back, I just drove. I am now sitting in a soulless hotel room staring at the wall. My phone has been a constant buzz of texts and calls from her father, her aunt. I am, in their words, a cruel, heartless monster. Maybe I am. But I also feel a strange, cold clarity I haven't felt in years. I gave her an out. I gave her a solution. She chose her mother. And now I'm choosing me. Update 1. The dust is starting to settle, and it's uglier than I imagined. Thank you for the messages of support. It's grounding to know I'm not losing my mind. I returned to my house at 3:15 p.m. that Thursday. The locksmith's van was parked outside. Brenda's and Shirley's cars were gone. A mountain of Shirley's junk, the floral armchair, boxes of knickknacks, lamps, was piled haphazardly on the curb. It looked like they'd left in a hurry. Gary the locksmith was a pro. An hour later, I had a new set of keys in my hand. They felt solid, definitive. I walked through the quiet house. It felt violated. They'd taken all of Brenda's things, but Shirley had left a calling card. She'd gone into my office. On the desk I keep my grandfather's watch, an old Omega Seamaster from the 60s. It's not a museum piece, but its sentimental value is immense. The display case was there, but it was empty. In its place sat one of her hideous porcelain dolls, a little sailor with a chipped smile, a trophy, a final, petty act of conquest. The theft of the watch was a calculated move, meant to wound me in a way moving furniture couldn't. I took a photo of the doll in the empty case. I documented everything. Then I sent a single text to Brenda. Your mother has stolen my grandfather's watch. I have already filed a police report for theft. The case number is 8675309. They informed me that knowingly possessing stolen property is a crime. She has 24 hours to return it before the police follow up. This was a slight exaggeration. I had only filed the report online. I hadn't spoken to an officer yet. But the official number was real. The threat of police involvement was the tool. The blowback was immediate. Shirley, using Brenda's phone, sent me a novel-length text tirade. I was a liar. I was ungrateful. The watch was a piece of junk she'd taken as a down payment for the pain and suffering I'd caused. She was building her own absurd legal case via text message. Brenda called me, sobbing. They're going to arrest my mother? Jonathan, you can't do this. It's a watch. It stopped being about the watch the second she put her hands on it. It's about a pattern of theft and disrespect you have enabled for years. 24 hours, Brenda. Have her leave it with the concierge at my hotel. No contact. I got a call from her father, Larry, next. He's always been steamrolled by Shirley, a perpetually bewildered man. Son, you have to be reasonable. You've kicked them out, isn't that enough? You're tearing the family apart. Larry, your wife tried to annex my home. Your daughter helped her. They tore the family apart. I'm just cleaning up the rubble. Tell Shirley to return the watch. The deadline came and went. Nothing. So, the next afternoon, I walked into the local precinct with my phone, showing the text messages from Shirley admitting she had it. The desk sergeant read them, raised an eyebrow, and took my statement seriously. He said the texts established clear intent and that a detective would be assigned the case, though he cautioned me that these things can move slowly. That was enough. 2 hours later, a frantic Brenda called. A detective had left a voicemail for her, referencing the case number and asking for a statement from Shirley. The official gears were turning, even if slowly. "Are you happy now?" she shrieked. "You've sicked the police on a sick old woman." "She's a thief, Brenda. That's not a medical condition." Her voice dropped, filled with a chilling venom I'd never heard before. "You will regret this, Jonathan. I swear to you, I am going to make you regret every second of this." I believe her. I regret that the woman I married is a stranger to me. I regret I didn't have the courage to draw this line years ago. Last night, I took Shirley's ugly armchair from the curb and personally drove it to a donation center. It's a small act, but it felt like an exorcism. I'm taking my house back, one piece at a time. Update 2. The war has moved to a new front: public opinion and financial warfare. First, the watch reappeared. It was left in a jiffy bag with the front desk at my office, no note. The fear of a larceny charge was enough. I'm having it serviced, just in case Shirley's spite is radioactive. The day after my last post, Brenda and Shirley showed up. I saw them on my Ring camera, ringing the bell, then banging on the door. I sat in my office and watched them on my phone. Shirley was yelling, her words a muffled stream of invective. Brenda was just crying. After 20 minutes, they gave up. A few days later, my brother sent me a link. Brenda had started a GoFundMe. The title was "Help Me and My Mom Escape Abuse." The photo was a carefully staged selfie of them in their hotel room, looking wan and tearful. The description was a work of pure fiction. It claimed I was a volatile alcoholic, I have a glass of wine with dinner maybe twice a week, who in a drunken rage had thrown them out into the night with nothing. She'd set a goal of $10,000 for a safety deposit and legal fees to fight for my rights. She'd already raised nearly $800 from her extended family and friends who didn't know any better. My first instinct was to post a comment, to fight back with the truth. But my lawyer, Stephen, is worth every penny. "Don't," he said. "Don't engage. Just document. We'll use their lies against them at the right time." So I did. I saved screenshots. Then I had my lawyer draft a formal email to Brenda, CCing me. It stated that she had one opportunity to retrieve her personal property on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It specified that her mother was not permitted on the premises and that any deviation would be considered trespassing. It also stated that the entire process would be filmed. This, of course, led to another flurry of texts about how cruel I was, but she agreed. On Saturday, she arrived with her father. Larry looked ashamed, unable to meet my eyes. I had systematically gone through the house and packed everything that was unequivocally hers into boxes and stacked them in the garage. I stood at a distance, my phone recording. She was all business until the end. "Where's the Vitamix and the new OLED TV?" "Brenda, the blender was a housewarming gift from my sister to me when I first bought this place. I have the receipt for the TV dated 1 year before I met you. They are not marital property. But I used them. We're married. It's our stuff." "No," I said as gently as I could. "It's my stuff that you had use of while we were married. That courtesy has now been rescinded. My lawyer has the paperwork. The divorce is being filed Monday on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. And by the way, that GoFundMe you started? Any funds you collect are considered marital assets you are actively hiding. Intentionally deceiving the court is a very, very bad look." Brenda went white. Larry stepped forward, wringing his hands. "Son, a divorce? Isn't that a bit extreme?" "Extreme was conspiring to steal my home, Larry. This is the logical consequence." They left. By that evening, the GoFundMe page was gone. The latest trick was the most insidious. Shirley somehow got my mother's phone number from an old Christmas card list Brenda had kept. She called her, weeping, telling a heartbreaking story of a daughter abused by a cruel man. My mother, a woman who has tolerated zero nonsense in her 65 years, listened patiently. When Shirley was done, my mom said, "Shirley, I know my son, and I know he owns his house. If you thought you could just take it from him, then you're not just a bad house guest, you're a fool. You have my son's wife with you. Perhaps you should focus on your role in breaking up her marriage instead of trying to poison this well. Do not call me again." Then she hung up. Every move they make, every lie they tell, just adds another page to the file my lawyer is building. They think they're fighting me. They're really just fighting themselves, and they're losing badly. Final update. It's done. The decree is absolute, the house is silent, and it's all mine. The last 6 months have been a masterclass in legal maneuvering and emotional endurance. The divorce proceedings were exactly as ugly as you'd expect. Their big play was for the house. Brenda's lawyer tried to argue for a significant portion of its equity, citing her contributions as a homemaker. They were banking on a judge seeing a poor, discarded wife. They didn't count on my meticulous record-keeping. My lawyer, Stephen, laid it all out in mediation. The premarital deed and mortgage statements, proving sole ownership. The formal offer I had made to rent an apartment for Shirley, proving I had attempted a reasonable solution. The photos from the day of the takeover, the police report for the stolen watch, and Shirley's own incriminating text messages. The screenshots of the fraudulent GoFundMe, which demonstrated bad faith and an attempt to hide assets. Faced with this mountain of evidence, their lawyer's posture changed. The fight for the house was a non-starter. The battle shifted to marital assets. I knew this was coming. We had a car we'd bought together and about $40,000 in a joint savings account. My lawyer advised a strategic move. We can spend a year fighting over every pot and pan, or we can cut the cancer out now. Offer her a settlement to walk away. So we did. We calculated her half of the actual marital assets, the savings and the car's equity, which came to roughly $28,000. My lawyer drafted an offer, a one-time lump sum payment of $30,000. In exchange, she would waive any and all future claims on any other property and agree to an uncontested divorce. She fought it at first. Shirley, I'm sure, was whispering in her ear about getting 6 figures. But her own lawyer, likely realizing he couldn't win with their mountain of bad faith actions, must have told her it was the best deal she would ever see. After a week of bitter silence, she accepted. The final meeting to sign the papers was in a sterile conference room. Brenda looked thin and worn down. The fire in her eyes was gone, replaced by a dull, permanent resentment. Shirley was there, of course, lurking behind her like a malevolent shadow. After signing, Brenda cornered me in the hallway. $30,000? She hissed. That's all I'm worth after 4 years? I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt a profound sadness. This was never about what you were worth, Brenda. It was about what you were willing to throw away. You had a life. You had a home. You chose her. This is the price of that choice. Shirley started to step forward, her mouth opening to spew her usual venom, but Brenda shot her a look of pure exhaustion. Stop, Mom. It's done. It was the first time I'd ever seen a flicker of rebellion in her, and it was 6 months too late. The consequences have been the natural result of their own actions. I didn't have to lift a finger. They burned through the settlement money in 2 months on deposits for a new apartment and paying off debts Shirley had accrued. They live in a cramped 2-bedroom unit in a town an hour away. A mutual acquaintance told my brother that Larry, Brenda's dad, visits rarely, and that the fighting between mother and daughter is constant. Shirley got what she wanted, her daughter all to herself, and now they are trapped in a small space, with Brenda working a second job on weekends to pay the bills her mother runs up. As for me, the silence in my house was deafening at first. I methodically purged every trace of them. I painted the bedroom a calm, quiet gray. I sold the bed we shared and bought a new one. I took my grandfather's watch, my artifact of independence, and it now sits on my nightstand. It's a daily, tangible reminder of what I fought for: my history, my peace, and my home. I'm slowly stitching my life back together. I've reconnected with old friends. I've started hiking again. I sit in my dad's old leather chair in my quiet living room, and I feel stillness. A profound, hard-won peace. I don't wish them ill exactly. I just wish them elsewhere. They are the architects of their own misery, and I am the sole, undisputed owner of my quiet, orderly life. And for that, I am deeply, profoundly grateful. Her best friend openly disrespected me, and my wife defended her, saying, "That's just how she is." I said, "I understand." The next day, I accidentally revealed a secret to the friend's fiancé. Now, Miss How She Is single. I, 34 male, have been married to my wife Cassandra, 32, for 6 years. Overall, we have a good marriage. We communicate well, share household duties, have similar life goals. But there's been one persistent thorn in our relationship: her best friend Mallory, 33. Mallory and Cassandra have been friends since college, and from day one of meeting me, Mallory made it clear she thought Cassandra could do better. Not in subtle ways either. She'd make comments at dinner parties about how Cassandra settled, how she gave up her wild side for domestic life, how she used to date more exciting guys. At first, I brushed it off. Some friends are protective, whatever, but it escalated over the years. She'd joke about my salary. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized company, decent money but not Wall Street. My hobbies, apparently board game nights, are pathetic. Even my appearance. At least he's tall, that's something. Every time I brought it up to Cassandra, same response. That's just how Mallory is. She doesn't mean anything by it. She's actually really sweet when you get to know her. Sweet? The woman who told me at our wedding reception that she gave it 2 years, tops? The one who tried to convince Cassandra to go on a girls' trip to Vegas for our anniversary weekend? Who constantly brings up Cassandra's ex, Bryce, the investment banker who apparently was God's gift to women. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago at Mallory's engagement party. Yeah, she managed to find someone willing to marry her. Garrett, 35M, a genuinely nice guy who owns a small tech consulting firm. I actually felt bad for him. During the party, Mallory had too much champagne and decided to give a speech. Most of it was about her and Garrett. But then she launched into this whole thing about settling for safety versus chasing passion. She looked directly at Cassandra and said, "Some of us choose security and predictability." Glanced at me, "And some of us wait for the real deal." She raised her glass to Garrett, who looked uncomfortable. Later, I overheard her telling a group of her friends, with Cassandra right there. I mean, at least Cass's husband is stable. That's important for some people. Not everyone needs excitement and ambition. Some people are fine with missionary position and Netflix documentaries. Cassandra laughed. Actually laughed. Like it was hilarious that her best friend was basically calling me boring in bed and in life. I pulled Cassandra aside later and told her that was completely out of line. Her response? "Oh honey, that's just how Mallory is. She's had a lot to drink." She didn't mean it personally. I said she literally made it personal. She was talking about our sex life. She was joking. "You're too sensitive. You know she's getting married now. She's just excited and saying silly things." I looked at my wife, the woman I loved, defending someone who had spent 6 years subtly, and not so subtly, undermining our relationship. And I said the only thing I could. "I understand." Cassandra smiled, kissed my cheek, and went back to the party. I stood there, watching Mallory hang all over Garrett, and noticed something interesting. When she thought no one was looking, she was texting someone with a huge smile on her face. Not unusual, except Garrett was literally right next to her. And when he tried to see what she was smiling about, she quickly put her phone away. Now, I'd seen that behavior before. At multiple gatherings over the years, always the secretive texting, always the quick phone hiding when Garrett came around, always the work stuff excuse. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I was angry, humiliated, and tired of being disrespected in front of my wife. So when Mallory left her phone on the bar to go dance, and I happened to be getting a drink, I didn't unlock it or anything. Didn't need to. The messages were right there on the lock screen. From someone named Derek, "Can't wait for next Tuesday. Same hotel?" 3 messages. That's all I saw before I went back to my table. But it was enough. The next day, Garrett added me on LinkedIn. He'd mentioned wanting to connect about some potential project management work for his company. Perfect timing. I accepted and messaged him. "Hey man, great party yesterday. Would love to discuss those projects. By the way, small world, I think I know Derek from Mallory's office. Tall guy, works in accounting? He mentioned they're working on some big Tuesday deadline. Anyway, let me know when you're free to chat about the consulting work." Innocent enough, just making conversation. Networking. Garrett responded within an hour. "Thanks. Yeah, let's definitely connect." Weird though, Mallory's company doesn't have a Derek in accounting. "You sure about the name?" "Pretty sure," I replied. "Maybe he's in a different department?" I definitely saw his name pop up in relation to some Tuesday thing. My mistake probably. Anyway, how's Thursday for coffee? That was 5 days ago. From what I understand through the inevitable gossip network, Garrett started asking questions. Turns out Derek is Mallory's personal trainer. The Tuesday work meetings she'd been having for the past 8 months? Yeah. Mallory tried damage control, claimed Derek was just a friend, that Garrett was being paranoid. But Garrett's not an idiot. He checked their credit card statements. They'd recently opened a joint account for wedding expenses. Multiple charges at a hotel restaurant every other Tuesday. Always for 2 people. Always during her supposed work meetings. The engagement is off. Mallory is staying with her parents. And suddenly, mysteriously, my wife's best friend is too busy to hang out or return calls. Cassandra has been quiet. She hasn't directly confronted me, but I think she knows. The timing is too convenient. The Derek detail too specific. Am I the bad guy here? Maybe. But after 6 years of being called boring, mediocre, and basically told I'm not good enough for my wife, I'm having trouble feeling guilty. Mallory wanted to talk about settling? Well, now she doesn't have to worry about it. Update 1. Well, things have escalated in ways I didn't expect. Buckle up because the entitlement is off the charts. First, Cassandra finally confronted me 3 days after my original post. She came home from work, sat me down, and asked point blank, "Did you tell Garrett about Derek?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "I mentioned I thought I knew a Derek from Mallory's work when Garrett and I were connecting about business. That's all." Technically true. She stared at me for a long moment, then said, "Mallory thinks you saw something on her phone at the party. Did she have something on her phone she shouldn't have?" That's not the point. Then what is the point, Cass? And here's where it got interesting. My wife, the woman who defended every insult, every dig, every undermining comment with, "That's just how she is," suddenly had tears in her eyes. The point is, you destroyed her life. Her wedding is off. She's living with her parents. Garrett won't even speak to her. I stayed calm. I mentioned a name in a networking message. If that destroyed her life, maybe there were bigger issues. You know what you did, and you know what she did, to me, to us, for 6 years. That stopped her cold. She opened her mouth, closed it, then just went to our bedroom and slammed the door. But the real drama started 2 days later. I came home from work to find Mallory in my living room, in my house, sitting on my couch. Cassandra had let her in. The entitlement was immediate. No hello, no can we talk, just straight to, "You need to fix this." Fix what? Don't play dumb. You sabotaged my relationship. You need to call Garrett and tell him you lied. I didn't lie. You implied things. You made him suspicious. I sat down across from her, really looking at her for the first time without my wife's filter. Mallory looked rough. Hair unwashed, no makeup, wearing what looked like week-old athleisure. The woman who used to mock my mediocre lifestyle was having a rough time. Mallory, I mentioned a name? That's all. What Garrett found was already there. Her face went red. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Derek and I were just friends. Friends who meet at hotels every other Tuesday? You don't understand. Garrett was always working, always busy with his company. Derek paid attention to me. So you cheated. It wasn't cheating. It was emotional support. Cassandra, who'd been silent in the corner, finally spoke up. "Mal, you told me you were sleeping with him." The look Mallory gave my wife could have curdled milk. "That was private. Girl talk. You weren't supposed to." "I wasn't supposed to what?" Cassandra's voice was sharp. "Care that you were cheating on your fiancé? The same fiancé you convinced me was perfect for you." And then Mallory said something that I think finally opened Cassandra's eyes. "Oh please, like you haven't thought about it. At least I had the guts to go after what I wanted instead of settling for safe and boring." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my wife's face cycle through about 10 emotions before landing on something I'd never seen directed at Mallory. Disgust. "Get out," Cassandra said quietly. "Cass, I didn't mean, get out." Mallory looked between us, seemed to realize she'd crossed a line, and started gathering her things. But because she's Mallory, she couldn't leave without a parting shot. "Fine. Enjoy your boring little life with your boring little husband. When you wake up at 40 and realize you wasted your youth on mediocrity, don't come crying to me." The door slammed. Cassandra and I sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, she said, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For everything. For letting her talk to you like that. For defending her. For being blind to what she was." I wanted to be petty, to say, "I told you so." But looking at my wife, who just lost her best friend of over a decade, I couldn't. "She showed you what she wanted you to see," I said instead. Cassandra laughed bitterly. "She showed me exactly who she was. I just didn't want to look." We talked for hours that night. Really talked. About how Mallory's comments had affected me, how they'd affected us. About how Cassandra had enabled it because it was easier than confronting her friend. About how we move forward. I thought that was the end of it. Mallory was out of our lives. Cassandra and I were working on us. Done deal. I was wrong. 3 days later, I got a call from my boss. Someone had called the company claiming I was involved in cyber harassment and digital stalking. They'd made serious accusations about me hacking into personal devices and destroying someone's relationship. Fortunately, my boss knows me well. We've worked together for 5 years. He told me about the complaint and asked for my side. I explained the situation minus some details, and he said he'd handle it. The accusation was vague, no proof was offered, and the caller had refused to give their name. But I knew who it was, and I knew this wasn't over. That night, Garrett called me. First time we'd spoken since the LinkedIn messages. "Hey man," he said, sounding tired. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For having the balls to hint at what was going on. I know that couldn't have been easy, given the relationships involved. I chose my words carefully. I honestly was just trying to network, but I'm sorry about how everything turned out." He laughed, but it wasn't happy. "Don't be. You saved me from marrying someone who was cheating before we even got married. Can you imagine if I'd found out after? With kids involved? Messy divorce?" We chatted a bit more. He told me Mallory had been blowing up his phone, alternating between begging for forgiveness and threatening to ruin him if he didn't take her back. She'd shown up at his office, made a scene. His business partner had to threaten to call security. "The thing is," Garrett said, "I really thought I knew her, but the person I'm seeing now, this vindictive, entitled person, maybe this is who she always was." I thought about all the comments, all the digs, all the jokes at my expense. Yeah, maybe it is. After we hung up, I found Cassandra in the kitchen, stress baking, her coping mechanism. I told her about the call to my work, about Garrett. She put down her mixing bowl and leaned against the counter. She called me today too, 27 times, left voicemails calling me every name in the book, said I chose that bastard over our friendship, that I'd regret this when you inevitably bore me to death and I'm left with no friends. 27 times? That's harassment. Yeah, I saved the voicemails. We looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. This was escalating beyond petty revenge or hurt feelings. This was becoming something else. "Maybe we should talk to a lawyer," I suggested. Cassandra nodded. "I'll call tomorrow. My cousin knows someone who handles harassment cases." As I write this update, Mallory has started a smear campaign on social media. Nothing that mentions us directly, she's not that stupid, but lots of posts about fake friends and homewreckers and karma coming for those who destroy others' happiness. The woman who spent 6 years telling me I wasn't good enough, who cheated on her fiancé, who tried to get me in trouble at work, she's painting herself as the victim. But here's the thing, her mask is off now. Garrett sees her for who she is, Cassandra sees her for who she is, and everyone in her social circle is starting to notice that her story doesn't quite add up. Actions meet consequences. And Mallory? She's finding out that that's just how she is isn't an excuse anymore. Final update. This'll be my last update because, frankly, I'm ready to put this whole chapter behind us. But given how invested some of you were, I figured I'd share how it all shook out. The escalation continued for about a week after my last update. Mallory went full nuclear. Beyond the social media posts and harassment calls, she created a fake LinkedIn profile to message my company's clients, claiming I was unstable and untrustworthy. Sent Cassandra's boss an anonymous email suggesting she check Cassandra's work computer for inappropriate activity. Posted in several local Facebook groups that we were dangerous neighbors who spy on people. Left a 1-star review for Garrett's business, claiming he was a paranoid control freak who accuses innocent women of cheating. That last one was her biggest mistake. Garrett had been willing to just walk away, but attacking his business? That crossed a line. He filed a defamation suit. His lawyer subpoenaed her phone records as part of building the case. And that's when everything unraveled for Mallory. See Derek, the personal trainer? He wasn't her only special friend. Turns out our girl had a whole roster. A bartender named Travis she met during girls' nights. A guy from her gym named Paul. Her ex from college who lived 2 towns over. The phone records showed it all. The coordinated meetups, the hotel bookings, the works. Girl wasn't just cheating, she was running a whole operation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember how she was always making digs about money? About my mediocre salary and lifestyle? Turns out Mallory was in massive debt. Like, scary massive. She'd been living this whole Instagram lifestyle, designer bags, expensive dinners, weekend trips, all on credit cards, nearly $60 in the hole. Garrett found out when they were planning the wedding and she kept dodging questions about her financial contributions. Her plan? Marry Garrett, let him pay off her debt, keep living the high life. The affairs were her backup plans, guys she kept on the hook in case things with Garrett went south. When all this came out through the legal proceedings, it spread through our social circle like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone had a story about money Mallory had borrowed and never paid back, about times she'd stuck them with the bill, about how she always seemed to have expensive things but never picked up a check. The woman who spent years calling me boring and mediocre? She was a broke cheater, desperately trying to land a meal ticket while keeping her side pieces warm. Cassandra took it hard. Not because she missed Mallory, but because she felt stupid for not seeing it. We actually started couples counseling to work through it. Best decision we've made. Our therapist helped Cassandra understand how toxic friendships can be just as damaging as toxic romantic relationships, and how Mallory had essentially been emotionally abusing both of us for years. As for Mallory's harassment campaign against us, our lawyer sent a cease and desist. When she violated it by showing up at Cassandra's work, we got a restraining order. She tried to contest it, but the judge took one look at the evidence, the calls, texts, fake profiles, reviews, and granted it immediately. The last I heard through the grapevine, she had to move back in with her parents permanently. She's working at her dad's accounting firm. The irony of her having to take a boring job isn't lost on me. Derek, Travis, Paul, and the ex all dropped her when they found out about each other. She's been banned from 2 of her favorite restaurants for trying to dine and dash. Garrett's defamation suit is moving forward, and his lawyer thinks they have a strong case. Cassandra and I were better than ever. Counseling helped us address not just the Mallory situation, but other communication issues we'd been ignoring. We've made new friends as a couple, people who actually like both of us. I got promoted at work. Turns out when you're not constantly stressed about being insulted in your own home, you perform better. We're even planning a vacation. Just us. No toxic third wheels. Last week, we were at a local coffee shop when we saw Mallory. She was sitting alone, laptop open, looking stressed. She saw us too. For a moment our eyes met and I saw something flicker across her face. Regret? Anger? Who knows? Cassandra grabbed my hand and we walked past without a word. Because that's the thing about people who justify their terrible behavior with "that's just how I am." Eventually, everyone realizes that's exactly why they should stay away. Mallory wanted to talk about settling, about mediocrity, about boring lives. Well, now she's living with her parents at 33, working a job she hates, buried in debt, with multiple burned bridges and a potential lawsuit hanging over her head. Meanwhile, the boring couple she mocked? We're thriving. Funny how that worked out. To everyone dealing with their own Mallory, whether it's a toxic friend, family member, or partner, remember this: that's just how they are is never an excuse for disrespect. You deserve better. And sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate. Sometimes it's just letting toxic people face the natural consequences of their actions while you live your boring, mediocre, wonderfully peaceful life without them. I'm done with this chapter. Time to go plan that vacation with my amazing wife. Thanks for following along. I won't be updating again, but trust me, that's a good thing. My ex-wife demanded double the alimony or I'll sue for full custody. I emailed, understood. Then I began the slow, methodical process of handing her enough rope to hang herself. I'm a 38-year-old man. The last few months have been a masterclass in compartmentalization. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. Evelyn, 36, and I were married for 10 years. We have 2 amazing kids, Leo, 8, and Mia, 6. The split wasn't a massive drama fest, or so I thought. We just grew apart. She said she felt stifled, that she'd lost herself. I was working long hours to build a life for us, and somewhere along the way, we became roommates, co-managing a family. It hurt, but I understood. I wanted her to be happy. The divorce was mediated. We agreed on 50-50 custody. It was the most important thing to me. My kids are my entire world. Alimony was the next big-ticket item. I do okay. Not mega rich but comfortable. I'm a project manager for a construction company. Evelyn hadn't worked since Leo was born, by mutual agreement. The court calculated a fair alimony amount based on my income and her lack of one. It was a significant chunk of my monthly take-home, around $3,500, but I didn't fight it. It was for the kids' stability, to ensure their life with her was comfortable. I wanted to keep things as smooth as possible for them. For a few months, it worked. The co-parenting app was our main line of communication. Drop-offs were civil, the kids seemed to be adjusting. I was adjusting. I was finally starting to breathe again, to feel like myself outside of being a husband. Then last week, I got the email. The subject line was just urgent, alimony and custody. The email itself was short, sharp, and felt like a punch to the gut. It was from Evelyn. Mark, it began. No warm-up, no preamble. The current alimony is not sufficient for me to provide a suitable home for the children. I have consulted with a new lawyer, and I am requesting an immediate increase to $7,000 a month. If you are unwilling to agree to this, I will be forced to file for a modification of our custody agreement and seek full custody, as I cannot guarantee their welfare on the current amount. I need your answer within 24 hours. I read it 3 times. The blood drained from my face. Full custody. The one thing that would absolutely destroy me. She knew it. This wasn't about money. This was a threat, pure and simple. It was a power play. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with a sudden, cold rage. The image of her I'd held onto, the reasonable co-parent, the woman I'd once loved, shattered. I thought about all the possible responses, calling her and screaming, begging, firing off an angry email detailing every sacrifice I'd made. But then I took a deep breath. An outburst was what she wanted, a messy, emotional reaction she could use as ammunition. She was banking on me being impulsive, strategic, not emotional. That had to be the way. I opened a reply. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a minute. Then I typed out a single word. Understood. I hit send. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Project Nightingale. I don't know why I named it that. It just sounded serene. The opposite of how I felt. Update 1. Hey everyone. The comments on my original post were a lifeline. A lot of you said to lawyer up and dig, and that's exactly what I did. The understood email was me buying time. Her 24-hour deadline came and went. She sent a follow-up email that just said, I ignored it. Let her wonder. Evelyn's mistake was thinking I was the same predictable, slightly weary man she divorced. She forgot that I'm a project manager. My entire job is about documentation, evidence, and anticipating problems. You don't start demolition without knowing exactly what's behind the wall. The first place I looked was where every entitled person hangs their dirty laundry for the world to see. Social media. Evelyn's accounts are private, but that's a flimsy lock. I created a new, anonymous Instagram account. Blank profile pic, nonsensical username. Then I went through her public followers list and found a few of her newer friends, the ones from her yoga class and a book club she'd recently joined. I sent follow requests to about 10 of them. For 2 days, nothing. The silence was maddening. Every notification on my phone made my heart jump. Then one accepted, then another. By the end of the week, I had a small window into her world. It was like striking gold, or, in this case, a vein of pure, unadulterated deceit. Her profile was a highlight reel of a life that $3,500 a month in alimony, plus a supposed zero income, couldn't possibly fund. Exhibit A, the boyfriend. I knew she was dating someone. She'd mentioned a guy named Julian. What she hadn't mentioned was that Julian, 40s, looks it, is apparently a day trader and lifestyle consultant. Lol. His own public profile was a cringe fest of leased sports cars, motivational quotes, and pictures of expensive dinners. Exhibit B, the secret business. Evelyn had started her own little side hustle, a boutique interior design consultancy. It was all over her posts. Pictures of swatches, client mood boards, and a few posts thanking clients for trusting her with their forever homes. There were even screenshots of glowing text message reviews. She was clearly getting paid under the table. Cash deals, nothing declared. I cross-referenced the names of the clients she thanked. A quick search showed a couple of them owned prominent local businesses, not small-time gigs. Exhibit C, the lifestyle creep. The last 3 months were a whirlwind of spending. A weekend trip to a vineyard resort, Rooms start at $800 night. A new designer handbag she'd posed with, which a quick search revealed cost north of $2,000. Photos of her and Julian at a high-end restaurant where the tasting menu is $300 a head. The caption? He spoils me. I spent an entire weekend methodically screenshotting everything. Every post, every comment, every tagged photo. I organized it all into a single, time-stamped PDF. I included links to Julian's public profile, the resort's website, the handbag's product page. I even found the business registration for one of the clients she'd thanked, proving they were a legitimate, high-revenue company. The entire time, a small, sad part of me was just disappointed. This wasn't about her moving on. It was about greed. She wasn't just hiding income, she was flaunting a life built on a lie I was funding while she threatened to take my kids away. That sad part of me shrank with every screenshot I took. It was replaced by a hard, clear resolve. On Monday morning, I had a meeting with my divorce lawyer, David. He's a quiet, no-nonsense guy. I laid it all out, the email threat, the PDF. He scrolled through the document on his tablet, his expression unreadable. After 5 long minutes of silence, he looked up at me. "Mark," he said slowly, this is a gift, but a gift we have to handle carefully. It's not just evidence for refuting her custody claim. This is evidence of perjury and financial fraud. She swore in her financial affidavit that she had no other source of income and no expectation of one. He told me we wouldn't be responding to her directly. We're going straight to the court. I'll draft a motion to compel. We'll ask for updated financial disclosures, bank statements from all her accounts, and a full vocational evaluation. I'll attach this whole PDF as Exhibit A. It's going to take me a few days to get it perfect. Once we file it, she'll be served, and then the clock starts ticking on her end. Waiting for him to draft it was hell. Every day felt like a year, but I knew he was right. This had to be perfect. Update 2. The motion was filed about 2 weeks ago. For a full week after that, nothing. Absolute silence. It was the most nerve-wracking week of my life. I knew she had been served the papers. I could only imagine the explosion on the other end. The silence felt more threatening than an angry phone call. It meant she was planning, strategizing. Then, last week, my phone started blowing up. A string of increasingly frantic texts from Evelyn. "Evelyn, what the hell did you do? My lawyer just called me. You're trying to ruin me? Are you seriously spying on me? Going through my private things? This is harassment, Mark. You're taking food out of your children's mouths. This is what you think is best for them?" A bitter, vengeful father. I didn't reply to a single one. David had been clear. Do not engage. All communication goes through me. Anything you say can and will be twisted. Then came the phone call. I was putting the kids to bed when my phone rang. It was Julian. I'd never spoken to the guy before. I let it go to voicemail. His message was a piece of work. A weird mix of faux-friendly bro talk and veiled threats. "Hey Mark, Julian here. Listen buddy, I think there's been a big misunderstanding. Evelyn is a great mom and she's just trying to do what's best. This legal stuff, it's messy, you know? It's not a good look for a guy like you. Makes you look bitter. We should all be mature about this. Maybe you and I can grab a beer, talk this out man to man before things get complicated. This court thing is just unnecessary." Unnecessary. The casual arrogance was astounding. I saved the voicemail and forwarded a copy to David. The response from her lawyer finally came. It was aggressive. It accused me of cyberstalking, of presenting misleading and out-of-context social media posts, and claimed her nascent design business was merely a hobby that had generated less than a few $100s in gifted funds. It was pure bluster. David's response was brief and pointed. He noted that we looked forward to clarifying the context in a deposition, under oath, and that we eagerly awaited the subpoenaed bank statements, which would surely corroborate her hobby income. Another week of silence, and then she pulled the move that changed everything. This afternoon, I got a call from Child Protective Services. My blood ran cold. A complaint had been filed, anonymously, of course. It alleged that I was emotionally unstable due to the divorce, that my home was unsuitable, and that I was often distracted and neglectful during my parenting time. It was a lie. A complete, disgusting fabrication. But the process is the punishment. They have to investigate. They have to come to my home. They have to interview me and my children. I immediately called David, my voice finally cracking. This was my breaking point. "They're bringing the kids into it, David. They're trying to brand me as a bad father." David was silent for a moment, and then I heard him take a deep, angry breath. "This is a classic scumbag tactic, Mark. It's meant to intimidate you into dropping everything. Do not let it work. This is an act of desperation. Document everything. I'll handle the rest." He was right. I felt sick, but I pushed it down. This wasn't the time for vulnerability. This was war. She just escalated it to a level I couldn't have imagined. Final update. The CPS visit was a nightmare. A kind but weary-looking woman came to my apartment. She toured every room, looked in the fridge, checked the kids' rooms. She spoke to me for half an hour, then she spoke to Leo and Mia separately, in a very gentle, age-appropriate way. It was the most stressful hour of my entire life. Watching my kids have to answer questions from a stranger about their life with me, because of their mother's malicious lies, it lit a fire in me that will never go out. The caseworker told me before she left that the claim seemed entirely unfounded, but that protocol dictated the case would remain open for a 30-day review period. Another month of this hanging over my head. Another month of potential surprise visits. The stress was immense. That CPS call was her checkmate move, or so she thought. In reality, it was her tripping over the king and knocking her own queen off the board. The moment the caseworker left, I called David and told him everything in detail. "Good," he said, his voice cold as ice. "She's just handed us the kill shot. A frivolous, malicious CPS report is considered an act of extreme parental alienation by the court. It's not just a dirty trick. It's evidence she's unfit to make decisions for your children." He didn't just add it to our existing motion. He drafted an emergency motion for sanctions against Evelyn and a request for an immediate interim order granting me temporary sole legal custody, citing the clear evidence of harassment and her willingness to harm the children's welfare to gain a financial advantage. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about protecting my kids from her behavior. He filed it the next day. This new motion, on top of the fraud evidence, was the tipping point. The previous filing made her look greedy. This one made her look monstrous. Less than 48 hours after David filed the emergency motion, he called me. "It's over," he said. "Her lawyer just called. He sounds like he's been run over by a truck. He asked if we could meet to finalize a settlement this afternoon. He said his client is willing to agree to whatever it takes to make this go away." The offer wasn't a settlement. It was a full-scale surrender. Here were her terms. She would immediately withdraw her request for an increase in alimony. She would agree to a permanent termination of all future alimony, effective immediately. She would pay back the last 6 months of alimony I had given her, $21,000. She would sign a legal agreement reaffirming our 50-50 physical custody arrangement, but I would have sole legal custody for the next 24 months, meaning I make all final decisions on education, health, and welfare. All of this was conditional on me withdrawing my motions and not pursuing the fraud and perjury claims with the district attorney. I sat with it for an hour. Part of me, the vengeful part, wanted to say no. I wanted her to stand in front of a judge and explain the CPS call. I wanted Julian to have to explain his lifestyle consulting under oath. But then I thought about Leo and Mia, a criminal investigation into their mother. What would that do to them? They love her. She is still their mom. My fight was with her, not them. Protecting them meant ending this, not destroying her for my own satisfaction. The sole legal custody was the ultimate protection. I called David back. "Take the deal," I said, "but add one thing. She pays every cent of my legal fees." He did. They agreed without a single counteroffer. We signed the papers last week. I transferred the $21,000 she paid back into separate trust funds for Leo and Mia. It's their money, tainted as it is. Maybe it can help them build a better future. I got one last text from her after the papers were signed. "Evelyn, I hope you're happy." I didn't reply. Because the truth is, I'm not happy. I'm relieved, I'm secure. I know my children are safe. I know I won't be financially bled dry to fund a fantasy. But the happiness is gone. The trust is gone. I look at her now during drop-offs, and I don't see the woman I married. I see a stranger who was willing to burn our children's world down for a bigger handbag. I heard through a mutual friend that Julian left her. Apparently, a girlfriend with no income, a looming tax bill from her hobby, and who had lost legal control over her kids, wasn't part of his lifestyle brand. She's had to move into a small apartment and is working retail. I don't feel joy at her downfall. I just feel nothing. She's a stranger now. Last night, the kids and I just ordered pizza and watched a movie. Simple, normal. As I sat on the couch with Mia curled up asleep on my lap and Leo explaining the plot holes in the superhero movie, I felt a profound sense of peace. This is my life now. It's quieter, it's smaller. It's also real. I'm not funding a lie anymore. I'm building a truth for my kids. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough.